Creativity, the use of imagination or original ideas. Creativity is expressed in many different ways. In art, in science, in technology, and in collaboration with others.
The act of creation is surrounded by a fog of myths. Myths that creativity comes via inspiration, that original creations break the mold, that they're the products of geniuses, and appear as quickly as electricity can heat a filament. But creativity isn't magic. It happens by applying ordinary tools of thought to existing materials.
All kids have tremendous talents, and we squander them pretty ruthlessly. So I want to talk about education, and I want to talk about creativity. My contention is that creativity now is as important in education as literacy, and we should treat it with the same status. Is that kids will take a chance. If they don't know, they'll have a go. Am I right? They're not frightened of being wrong. Now, I don't mean to say that being wrong is the same thing as being creative. What we do know is, if you're not prepared to be wrong, you'll never come up with anything original. If you're not prepared to be wrong. And by the time they get to be adults, most kids have lost that capacity. They have become frightened of being wrong. And we run our companies this, by the way. We stigmatize mistakes. And we're now running national education systems where mistakes are the worst thing you can make. And the result is that we are educating people out of their creative capacities. Creativity, which I define as the process of having original ideas that have value, more often than not, comes about through the interaction of different disciplinary ways of seeing things.
The stupidest possible creative act is still a creative act, right? Someone who has done something like this, however mediocre and throwaway, right, has tried something, has put something forward in public. And once they've done it, they can do it again, and they can work on getting it better. Right? There is a spectrum between mediocre work and good work, and as anybody who's worked as an artist or a creator knows, it's a spectrum you're constantly struggling to get on top of. The gap is between doing anything and doing nothing. Right? And someone who makes a lolcat has already crossed over that gap. Now, it's tempting to want to get the ushahidis without the lolcats, right? To get the serious stuff without the throwaway stuff. But media abundance never works that way. Freedom to experiment means freedom to experiment with anything.
Picasso once said this. He said that all children are born artists. The problem is to remain an artist as we grow up. I believe this passionately, that we don't grow into creativity, we grow out of it. Or rather, we get educated out of it.
But the most dramatic results can happen when ideas are combined. By connecting ideas together, creative leaps can be made, producing some of history's biggest breakthroughs.
It is now anybody with access to a $1,500 computer who can take sounds and images from the culture around us and use it to say things differently. These tools of creativity have become tools of speech. It is a literacy for this generation. This is how our kids speak. It is how our kids think. It is what your kids are as they increasingly understand digital technologies and their relationship to themselves.
I call it cognitive surplus, and it represents the ability of the world's population to volunteer and to contribute and collaborate on large, sometimes global projects. Cognitive surplus is made up of two things. The first, obviously, is the world's free time and talents. The world has over 1 trillion hours a year of free time to commit to shared projects. Now, that free time existed in the 20th century, but we didn't get ushahidi in the 20th century. That's the second half of cognitive surplus. The media landscape in the 20th century was very good at helping people consume, and we got, as a result, very good at consuming. But now that we've been given media tools, the internet, mobile phones, that let us do more than consume, what we're seeing is that people weren't couch potatoes because we liked to be. We were couch potatoes because that was the only opportunity given to us. We still like to consume, of course, but it turns out we also like to create and we like to share. And it's those two things together, right? Ancient human motivation and the modern tools to allow that motivation to be joined up in large-scale efforts that are the new design resource.
I'm not talking about nor justifying people taking other people's content in wholesale and distributing it without the permission of the copyright owner. I'm talking about people taking and recreating, using other people's content, using digital technologies to say things different. You should recognize what your kids are doing right now. Taking the songs of the day and the old songs and remixing them to make them something different. It's how they understand access to this culture.
And the only way we'll do it is by seeing our creative capacities for the richness they are and seeing our children for the hope that they are. And our task is to educate their whole being so they can face this future. By the way, we may not see this future, but they will. And our job is to help them make something of it.
There are 1 trillion hours a year of participatory value up for grabs. That will be true year in and year out. The number of people who are going to be able to participate in these kinds of projects is going to grow. Right? And we can see that organizations designed around a culture of generosity can achieve incredible effects without an enormous amount of contractual overhead, a very different model than our default model for large-scale group action in the 20th century. What's going to make the difference here, right, is what Dean Kamen said, the inventor and entrepreneur. Kamen said, free cultures get what they celebrate. Right? We've got a choice before us. Right? We've got this 1 trillion hours a year. We can use it to crack each other up, and we're going to do that. That we get for free. But we can also celebrate and support and reward the people trying to use cognitive surplus to create civic value. And to the degree we're going to do that, to the degree that we're able to do that, we'll be able to change society.